Let's go now to Caroline Glick. She is senior columnist at Israel I hope I said that right, and Newsweek as well. Also a senior fellow at the Center for Security Policy and former assistant foreign policy advisor to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Another great person to talk to tonight. She joins us from Israel, where I believe it's very early in the morning. Give us a sense of what's happening there, Caroline.
All right. Thank you so much for having me, Rob.
Sure.
So, I just want to speak to a couple of things that you were talking about before. We're being attacked by an illegal terrorist organization that's funded by Iran, Hamas, and by the Palestinian Authority. And, they're shooting thousands and thousands and thousands of rockets at our civilians in Israel, deliberately trying to kill them, deliberately trying to swarm our defenses, our Iron Dome missile interceptors, to cause maximum damage to property and, most importantly, to human life. And so this whole concept that, there's something morally illegitimate about Israel trying to defend itself and trying to wipe out an illegitimate terrorist organization is anti-Semitic. It's absurd. It's bigoted. It's racist, because it's saying that the Jewish state alone in the entire world doesn't have a right to defend its own people. So I think that's one point. Another point that's really important to point out, Hamas, the Palestinians are not second-class citizens of Israel. They've been living under autonomous rule for the past 25 years, both under the Palestinian Authority and under Hamas. And the Hamas, they voted these terrorists into office. So, and the funny thing about Palestinian elections, the reason why this whole thing started is because the Palestinian Authority, which is funded by the United States now under the Biden administration, and then it in turn funds Hamas with U.S. taxpayer dollars, they decided to launch a war against Israel because they canceled the elections to the Palestinian Authority. There haven't been elections. The head of the Palestinian Authority is now in the 16th year of his 4-year term. And the reason why he won't have elections is because Hamas was going to win those elections, and then he was going to lose power. So what he did to try to, show his actual legitimacy, even though he has no democratic legitimacy, is that he started inciting violence against Israel, because the way the Palestinian Authority for them to show how legitimate they are is by inciting for the murder and actually murdering Jewish people. So that's what this is all about.
Caroline, real quick, and you sum it up really well, actually. That's a really good way to put it. What is it that these far left people in this country that are really frustrating a lot of, and to be fair, moderate Democrats think they're nuts, Republicans think they're nuts. You've got this small faction that finds Israel's behavior in this despicable. What is it that they don't understand? Because like you just said, the Palestinians elect Hamas. They elect a terror group into power. That's really scary stuff if you live over there.
Well, the truth is that people like Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, AOC, and the rest of the squad members, what they don't understand is that Jews are people too, because their rhetoric is not just noxious and anti-Israel
but Bernie's Jewish.
Unobjective. They're actually anti-Semitic, and we have to remember how this whole thing started. It was that Hamas and the Palestinian Authority, they weren't talking about the occupation, they weren't talking about whatever, which actually doesn't exist. They were talking about something else. They were talking about property rights. They were talking about a property dispute in a Jerusalem neighborhood called Sheikh Jarrah, where since 1875, you have these Jews who have owned property there. So that's way before Israel was established in 1948. Jews bought property in this neighborhood, which is actually a Jewish neighborhood. They were ethnically cleansed. They were pushed out of Jerusalem in 1948 by Jordanian forces who conquered parts of this city in an illegal war to wipe out the Jews. And now they're saying that the Jewish landlords aren't allowed to own their property in this region, not because the Palestinians who squat there, who haven't paid rent in over 50 years.
That's what stirred everything up.
But because Jews don't have property rights. And so they're saying we're an apartheid state because Israeli courts recognize the rights of Israeli property owners who happen to be Jewish. That's what all of this is about. It's mind-boggling how horrible they're being.
There's been a couple things that was a big restart of the violence here. It's been 7 years now. Caroline Glick, thank you so much
50 years.
7 years since we've seen a conflict like this. It's gotten this bad.
Yes. I was talking about the property dispute.
Absolutely. Caroline Glick, thank you for getting up very early. I hope you stay safe there in Israel. Thanks for doing this for us, and we're going to check back in with you.
Thank you. God bless.
Appreciate it. Okay.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, where real news for real people.